The dawn hadn't yet broken over Virginia's Blue Ridge Mountains when Rainey Shen's alarm shattered the pre-dawn silence. Her small apartment above Chen's auto repair bore the marks of a life lived between paychecks. Second-hand furniture, walls decorated with her daughter's artwork, and a gun safe that looked oddly out of place among the modest surroundings. She moved through her morning routine with practiced efficiency, each motion carrying the muscle memory of someone who'd repeated these actions thousands of times. Coffee brewing, work clothes laid out, hands automatically checking the contents of a weathered leather case that sat on her kitchen table like a shrine. Inside that case rested more than just a firearm. It held memories, promises, and the weight of generational dreams. The Colt 1911 had crossed an ocean, survived a war, and taught a young girl that excellence wasn't about what you owned, it was about what you did with what you had. 40 miles away, behind walls that rose like medieval fortifications, the Blackstone Tactical Range was already alive with activity. This wasn't just any shooting facility, it was America's most exclusive training ground, a place where legends were made and reputations were defended with the ferocity of cornered wolves. Steel barriers topped with razor wire caught the first hints of sunrise, creating patterns that looked like prison bars against the lightening sky. Security cameras swiveled on their mounts, their mechanical eyes tracking every shadow, every movement. The main gate, solid steel reinforced with titanium, bore no sign, no indication of what lay beyond. Those who belonged here knew where to find it. Those who didn't were meant to stay away. Inside the compound, the morning ritual had begun. Colonel Jake Hammer Morrison stood at the espresso machine in the members' lounge, his scarred hands steady as he prepared his third double shot of the morning. At 52, Hammer carried himself with the coiled energy of a man half his age. His face bore the geography of a violent life. A scar across his left eyebrow from Mogadishu, a nose broken and reset in Fallujah, eyes that had seen too much to ever truly relax. Another day in paradise, Colonel? The voice belonged to tech specialist Amy Wong, a former Air Force intelligence officer whose skill with ballistic software was matched only by her ability to cut through military bravado. Hammer grunted, a sound that could have meant anything. Paradise is wherever civilians aren't, Wong. Speaking of which, you see the memo about today's visitor? Amy pulled up her tablet, frowning at the screen. Some kind of assessment from the governor's office. First civilian access in, wow, 12 years. Probably some pencil pusher wanting to check our insurance compliance, Hammer muttered, downing his espresso in one practiced motion. As if we need oversight from people who think a hot range is something you cook on. The morning sun had finally crested the mountains when Rena's F-150 approached the main gate. The truck had seen better decades, rust spots blooming like flowers on the fenders, a crack spiderwebbing across the windshield, the engine making sounds that would have sent most people straight to a mechanic. But Rena knew every sound this truck made, had rebuilt the engine twice with her own hands. It was ugly, it was loud, but it was paid for and it was hers. The guard at the gate stepped out of his booth, hand instinctively resting near his sidearm. He was young, maybe 25, with the rigid posture of someone who took their job very seriously. His nameplate read Davidson, and his eyes narrowed as he took in the battered truck and its driver. "Ma'am, this is private property. I'm going to need you to turn around." Raina rolled down her window, the mechanism groaning in protest. "Governor Hawthorne's office sent me. Special assessment." She handed over a folder containing her credentials, watching as Davidson's frown deepened with each page he read. "Visitor Pass 0001? His voice cracked slightly on the numbers. "That's—" "Hold on." He retreated to his booth, making a hurried phone call while glancing repeatedly at Raina's truck as if it might suddenly transform into something more acceptable. After what felt like an eternity, the massive gate began to roll open. "Park in visitor spot 1, Davidson said, still looking like he'd swallowed something unpleasant. "Someone will meet you at the main entrance." The drive from the gate to the main building revealed the true scope of Blackstone. Multiple ranges stretched into the distance. Some outdoor, others housed in buildings that looked capable of withstanding aerial bombardment. A helicopter pad occupied one corner, while an obstacle course that would make Marine boot camp look like a playground twisted through a wooded area. Raina parked between a Mercedes G-Wagon and a modified Humvee, her truck looking like a mongrel among pedigree show dogs. She grabbed her case from the passenger seat, took a deep breath, and stepped out into what felt like enemy territory. The main entrance was all glass and steel, designed to impress and intimidate in equal measure. Inside, the lobby looked more like a high-end hotel than a shooting range. Leather furniture arranged around a massive stone fireplace, walls adorned with photographs of stern-faced men in various military uniforms, display cases holding weapons that belonged in museums or action movies. "You must be our visitor." The voice dripped with barely concealed disdain. Raina turned to find herself facing a man who could only be Colonel Morrison. Everything about him screamed special forces, from the 1,000-yard stare to the way he moved like a predator, assessing prey. "Rainey Chen," she said, extending her hand. "The governor asked me to talk." "I know why you're here," Hammer interrupted, ignoring her outstretched hand. "Let's get this dog and pony show over with. The real shooters have work to do." He turned and strode toward a heavy steel door, clearly expecting her to follow. Raina adjusted her grip on her case and matched his pace, her work boots echoing against the polished concrete floor. The door opened onto the main indoor range, and for a moment, even Raina had to pause. The facility was spectacular. 25 lanes stretching 100 yards, each equipped with computerized target systems, environmental controls that could simulate wind and weather conditions, and lighting that could be adjusted to replicate everything from bright daylight to moonless night. But it wasn't the facility that caught her attention. It was the men using it. 8 shooters occupied various lanes, each moving with the fluid precision of elite operators. These weren't weekend warriors or competition shooters. These were men who had used their skills to end lives, to change the course of battles, to operate in shadows most people pretended didn't exist. Well, Hammer's voice carried across the range, causing all activity to cease. "Someone call animal control, we got a stray." The laughter that followed had edges sharp enough to cut. Raina recognized the tone. It was the sound of people who believed themselves untouchable, who had built walls of superiority so high they couldn't imagine anyone climbing over them. "Lost on your way to the lady's pistol social, sweetheart?" The speaker was younger than Hammer, Hispanic, with the lean build of a runner and eyes that missed nothing. His name tape read Rodriguez, but the others called him Flash. "Just here to shoot," Raina replied, keeping her voice neutral. Hammer's laughter boomed across the range. "Just here to shoot. You hear that, boys? She's just here to shoot." He mimicked her words in a high-pitched voice that drew more laughter from the assembled men. Range Officer Martinez, a former Marine sniper with a prosthetic leg that he'd earned in Afghanistan, gestured toward the far end of the facility. "Lane 7's open. That's our beginner lane, 50 yards max. Try not to hurt yourself." The walk to Lane 7 felt like walking a gauntlet. Whispers followed her steps, each comment designed to erode confidence, to put her in her place. Raina had heard it all before. In auto shops where customers demanded to speak to a real mechanic, in gun stores where clerks automatically directed her to the pink handguns, in a world that consistently underestimated what she was capable of. She set her case on the bench at Lane 7, the metallic click drawing curious glances from the other shooters. When she opened it, the reaction was immediate and visceral. "You've got to be kidding me." Flash had wandered over, unable to contain his curiosity. "Is that thing even functional?" Inside the case rested a Colt 1911 that had seen better decades. The bluing was worn away in places, leaving bare metal exposed. Rust spotted the slide like age marks on an old warrior. The original wooden grips were worn smooth, the checkering almost completely gone from years of use. "That relic even fire?" Hammer had joined the growing crowd around Lane 7. "Looks like it fought in Korea." "It did," Rainier replied quietly, running her thumb along the frame in a gesture that was both inspection and caress. "$100 says she can't hit paper at 25 yards. Flash slapped a bill on the range counter, his grin predatory. The betting frenzy that followed was almost ritualistic. These men, accustomed to 6-figure military contracts and equipment budgets that could feed small countries, treated money like ammunition, plentiful and meant to be spent. Within minutes, over $2,000 had accumulated in the pot, all bet against the civilian with the ancient pistol. Hammer, never one to be outdone, raised the stakes to a level he was certain would humiliate this intruder. "I'll make it interesting. 5 shots, 5 seconds, 100 yards. He paused, letting cigar smoke curl around his words like a dragon's breath. "Hit 3? I'll buy your ammo for a year. Hit all 5? His laugh was cruel, designed to hurt. "I'll eat my Purple Heart." Rhaenissa began loading rounds into a magazine, each cartridge clicking home with mechanical precision. The ammunition was nothing special, military surplus hardball, the kind you could buy in bulk at any gun show. No match-grade precision, no hand-loaded specialty rounds, just basic ammunition for a basic gun. Standard Olympic qualifying, Amy Wong announced from her position at the computer station. She'd been drawn by the commotion, her analytical mind already calculating odds. 5 shots, 5 seconds, 100 yards. Top international shooters struggle to hit 4. "Whenever you're ready to embarrass yourself," Hammer taunted, stepping back to give her room. Rhaena assumed her stance. Nothing fancy, no tactical flourishes, just solid fundamentals that spoke of countless hours of practice. Her breathing slowed, her world narrowing to the front sight, the target, and the space between heartbeats. The first shot shattered the morning calm. Before the echo had died, 4 more followed in rapid succession, each report blending into the next like a string of firecrackers. The digital timer on the wall blinked its verdict, 4.7 seconds. Silence descended on the range like a heavy blanket. Every eye turned to the electronic scoring system, waiting for the inevitable confirmation of failure. The LED display cycled through its calculation, then displayed numbers that shouldn't have been possible. That's 0.43 MOA, Amy's voice cracked with disbelief. She just shot a group tighter than Olympic gold, with iron sights, using surplus ammo. Emmer's cigar fell from slack lips, ember scattering across the concrete floor. Luck, pure blind luck. Nobody shoots sub-half MOA with iron sights at 100 yards. Nobody. Rhaena ejected the empty magazine, her movements unhurried, almost meditative. My father said luck is what happens when preparation meets opportunity. 4 witnesses, Flash, Martinez, and 2 other operators, sprinted downrange, their boots pounding concrete with the urgency of men who needed to verify the impossible with their own eyes. They clustered around the target, phones out, documenting what their training told them couldn't be real. "Jesus Christ," Flash whispered. His earlier bravado evaporated. All 5 shots could be covered with a quarter. Hell, a nickel. The commotion had drawn attention from every corner of the facility. Support staff peered through windows, their daily routines forgotten. Even the facility's artificial intelligence system, designed to track and analyze shooting performance, flagged the result as a statistical anomaly worthy of investigation. So how? The question came from Martinez, professional curiosity overcoming wounded pride. That grouping is tighter than what most of us can do with match rifles and glass. Before Rhaena could answer, a sound cut through the morning air that changed everything. The distinctive thrum of rotor blades. Everyone recognized that particular acoustic signature, a military VH-60 Whitehawk, the helicopter variant reserved for high-ranking government officials. The black helicopter descended into the facility's landing zone like a bird of prey, its downwash scattering forgotten bedding slips and sending brass casings skittering across concrete. Ground crew rushed to secure the area, their practiced movements suggesting this wasn't the first time authority had descended from the sky. Governor Patricia Hawthorne emerged from the aircraft before the rotors had fully stopped, her presence immediately commanding attention. At 61, she moved with the economical grace of someone who had learned that wasted motion could mean death. Her salt and pepper hair was pulled back in a severe bun, her suit tailored to accommodate the concealed carry weapon that everyone knew she wore. Hawthorne had served as a Marine Corps sniper in operations that still remained classified, had earned a Silver Star in actions that couldn't be discussed, and had transitioned to politics with the same precise efficiency she'd once used to calculate windage and elevation. She surveyed the scene with eyes that missed nothing, reading body language and spatial relationships like a sniper reading terrain. "Gentlemen," her voice cut through the tension with surgical precision. "I heard there's been an upset. Ms. Chen, I presume." Hammer snapped to attention, military bearing overriding his bruised ego. "Governor, just a fluke. This civilian got lucky with a few shots." "Scored what exactly, Colonel?" Among stepped forward, tablet in hand, her voice steady despite the surreal nature of the situation. 0.43 minute of angle, ma'am, new range record, with iron sights, at 100 yards. The governor's heels clicked against concrete as she approached Rhaena, each step measured and deliberate. Her eyes dropped to the worn 1911, recognition flickering across her features. "Korean War issue. Original parts. May I?" Raina nodded, watching as the governor lifted the pistol with the reverence of someone handling a religious artifact. Hawthorne's fingers traced the worn metal, pausing at specific points of wear that told stories only veterans could read. "Your father's?" It wasn't really a question. Staff Sergeant Thomas Chin, 2nd Infantry Division. Chosin Reservoir. The name of that battle hung in the air like a prayer. Even the youngest operators knew of Chosin, where surrounded Marines and Army units had fought their way out of a Chinese trap in temperatures that froze weapons solid and turned flesh to stone. "The frozen Chosin," Hawthorne murmured. "My uncle was there. 3rd Battalion, 7th Marines, said the only thing that kept working in that cold were the 1911S and the M1 Garans. Everything else froze solid." The shared connection seemed to shift something in the atmosphere. These were no longer just governor and civilian, but two people connected by the invisible threads of military service that bound generations together. "Colonel Morrison," the governor's tone shifted back to business, "what's your most challenging qualification course?" Hammer's jaw worked like he was chewing glass. The question was a trap, and everyone knew it. "The Dynamic 20, ma'am. 20 pop-up targets, 30 seconds, variable distances, from 7 to 50 yards. No team's ever shot it clean." "Ms. Chen?" Hawthorne turned back to Raina. "Would you care to try?" The implications hung in the air heavier than cordite. This wasn't just about shooting anymore. This was about challenging systems, breaking down walls that had stood for generations. "But ma'am," Flash interjected, forgetting protocol in his shock, "that's a course designed for assault teams, multiple shooters with modern equipment. It's not meant for—" "For what, Rodriguez?" The governor's voice could have frozen helium. "For civilians? For women? For people who don't look like they belong here?" The young operator's mouth snapped shut, his face flushing. "If Ms. Chen succeeds," Hawthorne continued, "this facility opens for public tryouts, monthly. My office will oversee the selection process to ensure fair access." She paused, letting the implications sink in. "If she fails, she admits today was luck and leaves. Permanently." Raina's answer came without hesitation. "I accept." What followed was a transformation that would later be studied in social media analytics courses. Within minutes of the first tweet, "Break, civilian challenges military elite at secret gun range." The story went viral. News vans materialized at the front gate like sharks sensing blood. The facility's parking lot, designed for 50 vehicles, suddenly needed to accommodate hundreds. They came from everywhere: veterans in motorcycle club vests, off-duty cops still wearing their badges, competitive shooters who'd heard whispers of the impossible shot, regular folks who'd caught the live stream and couldn't stay away from what promised to be either history or humiliation. The Rangers' small observation area couldn't contain the crowd. Maintenance crews scrambled to set up additional bleachers, borrowing equipment from a local high school. Someone produced a professional-grade PA system. Within an hour, Blackstone had transformed from exclusive training facility to public arena. Earn odds 40-1 against the civilian. The voice belonged to someone who'd set up an impromptu betting operation, complete with printed tickets and a cash box that was filling rapidly. The technical preparations took on the feel of a prize fight. Both Raina and the range's computerized target system needed to be ready. While technicians calibrated the pop-up mechanism and verified the timing systems, the crowd was treated to a stark contrast in equipment philosophy. The professional shooters had rolled out their gear like knights preparing for battle. Customized pistols with electronic sights, compensators that redirected recoil, trigger jobs that broke like glass at 2 pounds of pressure. Magazine wells flared for faster reloads, extended magazines holding 20 rounds or more. Every possible advantage that technology could provide. Raina cleaned her 1911 with the same shop rag she used on carburetors, running a bore snake through the barrel with practiced efficiency. She had 4 magazines, standard 7-round capacity, no extensions, no modifications. Her ammunition remained the same military surplus hardball, pulled from a cardboard box that had probably sat in someone's garage for decades. "Those race guns cycle at 0.15-second splits," a livestream commentator explained to viewers. "Her trigger pull is probably 8 pounds or more. This is like racing a Ford Model T against a Formula One car." Maria Vasquez, a local firearms instructor who'd rushed over when she heard the news, shook her head in amazement. She's using ball ammo that probably cost 20 cents a round, against match-grade ammunition that costs $2 per shot. Dios mío, this woman has cojones. The crowd fell silent as the range officer's voice boomed through speakers. Shooters to the line! Amy Wong provided context for those unfamiliar with the course. The dynamic 20 is our ultimate test. Targets appear randomly, some for only 2 seconds, others for 4. Distances vary, some move laterally. The current record is 18 hits in 26 seconds, shared by a SEAL Team 6 operator and a Delta Force instructor. Raina took her position at the firing line, checking her magazine pouches one final time. The weight of the moment settled on her shoulders like a familiar burden. She closed her eyes briefly, and time seemed to fold in on itself. She was 10 years old again, standing in that abandoned quarry with her father. The summer sun beat down mercilessly, sweat running into her eyes as she struggled to hold the heavy pistol steady. I can't do it, Daddy, it's too hard. Thomas Chin knelt beside his daughter, his calloused hands gentle as they adjusted her grip. Nothing worth doing is easy, little star. The target doesn't care about your excuses. It only cares about your preparation. But the other kids at school, they go to nice ranges. They have new guns. Why can't we? Listen to me, Raina. Her father's voice carried the weight of hard-earned wisdom. Excellence isn't about what you have. It's about what you do with what you have. This old gun has more stories in it than all those fancy pistols combined. It crossed an ocean, survived a war, saved lives. It doesn't need to be pretty, it needs to work. Young Raina wiped her eyes, squared her shoulders, and took aim again. The shot rang true, punching a hole exactly where she'd aimed. Again, her father said. And again, and again. Until it becomes part of you. Until your hands know what to do without your mind having to tell them. That's not luck, little star. That's preparation. The memory faded as the range officer's countdown began. Course is hot in 5, 4... Raina's world narrowed to essential elements. Front sight, trigger pressure, breathing rhythm. Everything else, the crowd, the cameras, the weight of expectation, faded to background noise. 3, 2, 1. The buzzer screamed. The first target snapped up 7 yards out, center mass exposed for 2 seconds. Raina's pistol barked, the target falling before most observers had registered its appearance. 2 more popped simultaneously, one at 15 yards, another at 25, moving right to left. 2 shots, 2 hits, so fast they sounded like a single report. She's not even looking at the gun during reloads, someone shouted from the crowd. Magazine out, new one in, slide release slapped with economical motion. No wasted movement, no Hollywood flourishes, just pure efficiency born from countless repetitions. Targets appeared in bewildering succession, high, low, near, far, some partially obscured by no-shoot barriers. Raina flowed through the course like water finding its path, each movement precise yet natural. Her father's words echoed with each shot. Smooth is fast, fast is smooth. At the 15-second mark, she'd dropped 12 targets. A lateral mover appeared at 30 yards, the course's most challenging shot. Raina tracked it briefly, then sent a round through its center as casually as someone swatting a fly. Onkment targets. 18 targets down, 22 seconds elapsed. The crowd held its collective breath. The final 2 targets emerged simultaneously, one at maximum range, another at bad breath distance. Raina engaged the close target with her peripheral vision while focusing on the distant one, trusting muscle memory for the near shot, while her conscious mind calculated the far one. Both fell. The timer froze at 28.9 seconds. Perfect run, the judge's voice cracked with disbelief. 20 targets, 20 hits. The range software immediately began its analysis, displaying statistics that shouldn't have been possible. Average split time between shots, 0.31 seconds. Transition time between targets, 0.22 seconds. Accuracy, 100%. All with a 70-year-old pistol and iron sights. The crowd's roar was deafening. Phones captured the moment from every angle, streaming live to millions of viewers worldwide. The betting coordinator stood frozen, calculator in hand, trying to compute payouts for odds no one had expected to hit. I've analyzed the footage frame by frame. a technical analyst announced on the live stream, his voice carrying the weight of scientific authority. Zero mistakes. No wasted motion. This woman just rewrote close-quarters battle doctrine with World War II technology. Social media exploded. Iron Sight's magic and range domination began trending globally. The video hit 2 million views before the spent brass had cooled, then 5 million, then 10. News networks interrupted regular programming. Military forums crashed under unprecedented traffic as veterans and active duty personnel debated what they'd witnessed. Hammer approached Reyna, his swagger replaced by something that looked suspiciously like respect. Each step seemed to cost him years of carefully constructed superiority. How? The word came out like a prayer. We train daily, custom gear, sports psychologists, nutrition programs, every advantage money can buy. Reyna met his gaze with quiet dignity, brass casings crunching under her boots. You train to maintain superiority. I train to survive mediocrity. The simplicity of her answer hit harder than any boast could have. Here was truth distilled to its essence. The difference between privilege and perseverance, between given advantages and earned skill. Governor Hawthorne's voice carried across the stunned crowd, each word measured for maximum impact. Gentlemen, I believe apologies are in order. What followed was a ceremony as old as warfare itself, the ritual acknowledgement of a worthy opponent. One by one, the elite operators approached. Handshakes were exchanged, some stiff with reluctance, others warm with genuine admiration. Hammer reached to his shoulder and removed his unit patch, a privilege reserved for brothers in arms, for those who had earned their place in the Brotherhood of Warriors. The patch bore the insignia of Delta Force, threads frayed from years of wear. He pressed it into Reyna's hand, his voice rough with emotion. Welcome to the Brotherhood. Flash Rodriguez stepped forward next, offering his Seal Trident pin. Martinez unpinned his Marine Scout sniper badge. Others followed, each tribute more meaningful than the last. By the time they finished, Reyna's flannel shirt bore the badges of America's most elite units. Not as trophies, but as acknowledgments of respect, earned the hardest way possible. As the afternoon sun painted the range in golden light, the crowd gathered in the facility's lodge. The massive stone fireplace crackled with fresh logs, its warmth matching the transformed atmosphere. Where morning had brought mockery, evening delivered recognition. Where exclusion had ruled, inclusion now reigned. Reyna reached into her wallet and pulled out a photograph, its edges soft from years of handling. The image showed a young girl standing next to a proud father, both squinting in harsh sunlight at what was clearly a makeshift shooting range. Dad couldn't afford fancy ranges, she began, her voice carrying to every corner of the now silent room. We shot at an abandoned quarry outside Baltimore, railroad ties for target stands, coffee cans filled with dirt for reactive targets. When other kids went to summer camp, I spent weekends picking up brass to reload. She traced her father's image with gentle fingers, the photograph trembling slightly in her grip. He worked 2 jobs, mechanic during the day, security guard at night. Every extra penny went to ammunition. Not match grade, not hollow points, just basic ball ammo bought in bulk. Excellence isn't equipment, he'd say, it's consistency. Governor Hawthorne leaned forward, her political mask dropping to reveal genuine interest. What happened to him? Cancer. Died when I was 16. Reyna's voice remained steady, but her eyes reflected old pain. His last words to me, keep practicing, little star. Let your shots speak louder than their words. Left me this gun and a promise. Never let anyone tell you where you don't belong. The silence that followed was cathedral deep. Hardened warriors who had faced death in dozen countries found themselves blinking away unexpected moisture. The camera zoomed in on the 1911's grip, revealing an inscription worn smooth by years of handling. To my daughter, shoot straight, stand tall. Hill would have loved this, Reyna continued, gesturing to encompass the room, the range, the moment. Not the winning. The opportunity. The chance to prove that skill isn't about pedigree or papers or how much you can spend. It's about how much you're willing to work. Papers shuffled as Governor Hawthorne produced official documents from her briefcase. The state seal gleamed on heavy stock paper. Ms. Chen, I'm forming a civilian marksmanship advisory board. Your insight could reshape how we train the next generation of shooters, military and civilian alike. Hammer cleared his throat, the sound like gravel in a cement mixer. I'd like to second that motion and personally sponsor youth clinics. There are kids in this state who deserve the chance we almost denied you. The admission cost him, but perhaps that was the point. True change always comes with a price. Raina's response came without hesitation. I accept, on one condition. She paused, making eye contact with each of the operators who had mocked her hours earlier. This range hosts monthly open sessions, real people with real stories. No income requirements, no background prerequisites beyond legal eligibility, no more walls between those who serve and those they protect. The document signing felt like a treaty ceremony. The official stamp thundered down, its echo carrying the weight of institutional change. Photographers captured the moment, former enemies now allies, united by respect earned through skill. 3 months later, Blackstone Range was unrecognizable. Where once stood walls topped with razor wire, welcoming banners now waved in the breeze. The parking lot had been expanded to accommodate hundreds of vehicles. A new building housed classrooms where patient instructors taught fundamentals to eager students of all ages and backgrounds. The first public championship drew entrants from every walk of American life. A high school physics teacher from Richmond, an auto mechanic from Norfolk, one of Raina's employees, as it turned out. 3 single mothers who had formed a mutual support and training group, 24 others who had never dreamed they'd shoot alongside legends, much less compete against them. The transformation was most visible in the smallest details. Children's laughter replaced the old silence. Brass casings tinkled like wind chimes as new shooters discovered their potential. Veterans mentored at-risk youth, finding purpose in teaching what they'd learned in service. The smell of expensive cigars gave way to the aroma of community potluck dishes as shooting sessions evolved into social gatherings. Raina's clinics drew hundreds weekly, her patient instruction echoing her father's teachings. She had a gift for diagnosis, watching a student's first few shots and immediately identifying what needed adjustment. More importantly, she could explain corrections in terms anyone could understand, without the jargon that often made shooting sports intimidating to newcomers. Front sight focus is like driving, she'd explained to nervous beginners. You look through the windshield at where you're going, not at the hood of your car. The rear sight is your hood. It's there, you're aware of it, but your focus is beyond it. The winner of that first Open Championship shocked everyone, except Raina. Agnes Williams, 67 years old, had learned to shoot just 6 weeks prior. A retired librarian who had raised 4 children alone after her husband died in Vietnam, Agnes possessed the 2 qualities Raina valued most, patience and determination. Her acceptance speech brought tears to battle-hardened eyes. They told me I was too old to start, too set in my ways. Ms. Chen taught me that excellence has no expiration date, that discipline beats youth, and consistency beats talent. She held up her trophy, not crystal or gold, but a simple wooden plaque. This isn't just for me, it's for everyone who was ever told they don't belong. That rusty 1911 now occupied a place of honor in the lodge's main room. A custom display case protected it from curious fingers, while allowing clear viewing from all angles. LED lighting highlighted the worn finish, the smooth grips, the honest wear that spoke of countless rounds fired in pursuit of excellence. The plaque beneath read, "Excellence isn't equipment, it's access," in memory of Staff Sergeant Thomas Chen, who taught his daughter to shoot straight and stand tall, presented by the Blackstone Training Facility, where walls became bridges. 6 months after the transformation, the ripple effects were measurable. Applications for the public sessions had increased 400%, with waiting lists stretching months into the future. Youth programs reported decreased gang involvement in participating neighborhoods. Police departments noted improved community relations as officers volunteered as instructors. More significantly, other exclusive facilities began questioning their own policies. If Blackstone, the most elite of the elite, could open its doors without compromising standards, what excuse did others have? The conversation shifted from "why should we?" to "why haven't we?" As another day of public training wound down, Raina stood at the edge of the range, watching a new generation discover their potential. The setting sun painted the mountains in shades of gold and purple, the same light that had illuminated her own journey decades ago. A small hand tugged at her sleeve. Raina looked down to find a pigtailed girl no older than 8, her eyes bright with hero worship. The child wore safety glasses, too big for her face, and ear protection that made her look like a tiny pilot. "Mrs. Chen, think I could shoot like you someday." Raina knelt to meet the child's eyes, seeing herself reflected in that hopeful gaze. Behind the girl, her mother watched with the nervous pride of a parent witnessing their child reach for dreams they themselves never dared pursue. "Better," Rainier replied, the words carrying the weight of prophecy. "You'll shoot like you." The girl's smile could have powered a small city. As she skipped back to her mother, Raina heard her excited chatter. "She said I'll shoot like me, not like her, like me." In that moment, Raina understood what her father had really left her. Not just a gun or skills, but a legacy of possibility. The ability to see potential where others saw limitation. The knowledge that excellence wasn't about having the best equipment, it was about making the best of what you had. Standing there in the fading light, surrounded by the sounds of community and growth, Raina felt her father's presence as clearly as if he stood beside her. She could almost hear his voice on the evening breeze. "Well done, little star, well done." The next morning brought new students, new challenges, new opportunities to break down walls. The exclusive had become inclusive. The fortress had become a community center. And somewhere in heaven, Thomas Chen was smiling, watching his daughter fulfill a promise made long ago. Not just to shoot straight. Elena Mercer stepped onto the gleaming deck of the $200 million zero-cent superyacht Azure Empress, docked in Miami's exclusive Star Island Marina, where champagne flowed freely from Cristal bottles worth $4.00 each, and guests flaunted Patek Philippe watches and Van Cleef and Arpels jewelry that cost more than most American family homes. The moment her simple linen dress, purchased from a local boutique for under $100.00, touched the polished teak deck, socialite Victoria Harrington Ross loudly demanded, "Security, remove this imposter, who clearly didn't belong among America's elite." Victoria circled Elena like a shark, her designer heels clicking rhythmically against the deck. "That dress couldn't have cost more than $85.00, and those shoes are... oh my God, are they from a department store?" Victoria sneered, adjusting her own $75,000 Dior gown and $12 Louboutin heels. Elena attempted to explain her legitimate invitation, while Victoria repeatedly cut her off, making sure everyone nearby could hear the confrontation. The crisp Atlantic breeze carried notes of Clive Christian perfume and freshly popped champagne, while the setting Miami sun bathed the deck in golden light that glinted off diamond-encrusted watches and platinum jewelry, creating a stark contrast to Elena's simple pearl earrings and unadorned wrists. Guests began to notice the commotion, champagne glasses pausing midway to lips as the spectacle unfolded. Victoria's voice grew louder, designed to draw even more attention. "What's your net worth? What's your family name? Which hedge fund does your husband manage?" The questions flew at Elena like daggers, each one meant to expose her as an imposter. 3 investment bankers in Tom Ford suits joined the circle, surrounding Elena with their imposing presence. "My cufflinks alone cost $30,000.00," one banker laughed, adjusting his French cuffs with exaggerated movement. "That's probably more than everything you own combined." Elena maintained her composure but refused to reveal her identity, causing whispers to spread across the deck. Gatecrasher and social climber. On nearby phones, comment bubbles appeared on social media. "Who let her in? Gatecrasher. Alert, wrong party, honey." Victoria's performance reached new heights as she loudly theorized that Elena must be someone's charity project. Her voice dripped with mock sympathy. Perhaps she won a radio contest? Or cleans the cabins below deck? Fashion designer Julian Pierce, whose label adorned half the women present, joined the growing spectacle, suggesting Elena's dress screams discount rack. "We're at an event where tables cost $100,000.00 each, darling," Victoria continued, gesturing broadly at the assembled wealth. "People in this room have collective wealth exceeding $500 billion. 0 cents. You don't belong." The statement hung in the air, a verbal guillotine meant to end Elena's presence. Perhaps wealth shows itself in different ways. The quiet dignity in her voice only fueled Victoria's determination to humiliate her further. With theatrical flair, Victoria pulled out her phone to document the intruder for her millions of followers. Comments immediately began bubbling up. Class crash, fake it till you make it, budget crasher. The scene took an even darker turn as the yacht's staff joined in the public shaming. Wait staff carrying Dom Perignon and caviar-topped appetizers deliberately bypassed Elena, creating a visible service desert around her. When she politely requested water, head steward Marcus exchanged knowing glances with Victoria before responding. "Service is for guests only," he said, loudly enough for everyone to hear. Another server whispered audibly, "We only serve people who can afford to tip in Rolex watches, not quarters." Elena stood isolated as servers moved around her like she was invisible, their trays never pausing in her vicinity. Marcus sniggered to another server, making no effort to lower his voice. She probably thought this was the public ferry to Fisher Island. On social media feeds, new comments appeared. Server revenge. Know your place. Staff knows. The humiliation escalated when head of security Dominic approached with two guards flanking him, their earpieces and black suits creating an intimidating presence. "Madam, we need to verify your credentials," he stated coldly. "Unauthorized access to this vessel is a criminal offense." Elena produced her invitation, cream-colored cardstock with gold embossing, but Dominic barely glanced at it before suggesting it must be forged or stolen. His dismissive tone matched his words. "This event is insured for $75 million, 0 cents. We can't have security risks aboard." The hesitation before security risks made his implication clear. Elena herself was the perceived threat. The security guards positioned themselves strategically to block her movement, hands resting on earpieces as they awaited further instructions. Victoria watched the scene unfold with satisfaction, sipping her $2,000 per glass champagne while new comments floated across her screen. "Security takeout. Busted gate crash. Expensive mistake." As if orchestrated perfectly, event coordinator Margot LeBlanc arrived next, tablet in hand and disapproval etched on her face. She loudly checked the guest list, deliberately scrolling past Elena's name, despite it being clearly visible on the screen. "I personally vetted every guest," Margot declared with practiced authority. "You're not on my list." When Elena calmly pointed to her name on the tablet's display, Margot shifted tactics seamlessly. "That must be a different Elena Mercer," she claimed, her tone dismissive. Margot's voice dripped with condescension as she added, "Perhaps you meant the charity dinner for regular people at the Marina restaurant. That one's only $5,000, 0 cents per plate, much more your speed." Elena quietly insisted she was in the right place as Margot signaled to security with a subtle nod. The gathered staff exchanged amused glances at Elena's impending removal, a new comment appearing. "Staff always knows. Busted by the pros. Not on the list." What had begun as one socialite's mean-spirited game had transformed into a public spectacle as Victoria began live-streaming the encounter. "Look what washed up on the Azure Empress," she narrated to her camera, walking circles around Elena to capture every angle. The stream quickly gained viewers as other guests shared it to their millions of followers across various platforms. "She thinks she belongs at a $200,000 0 cents per plate charity gala, where everyone owns at least one private island," Victoria exclaimed, her voice theatrical with mock disbelief. Celebrity guests joined in, filming Elena from different angles while adding various filters and effects to further mockery. Camera flashes popped like lightning around Elena, the electronic hum of phones broadcasting her humiliation creating a technological cocoon of shame. The salty air mingled with expensive cologne as the acrid taste of public humiliation filled Elena's mouth. Comments flooded Victoria's stream. "Yacht crash, wanna be busted, wrong side of the rope." The spectacle grew as fashion influencer Alexis Morgan, with her 15 million followers, joined Victoria's live stream for what she called an expert analysis of the intruder. "That bag is at least 3 seasons old," Alexis declared, zooming her camera in on Elena's purse. "And those shoes wait, are those actually rubber soles?" Each statement was designed to elicit maximum humiliation as they dissected different aspects of Elena's appearance for their growing audience. "The watch is missing. Probably couldn't afford even a basic $20,000 0 cents entry-level timepiece," Alexis continued, focusing her camera on Elena's bare wrist. Despite the overwhelming onslaught, Elena remained composed but visibly uncomfortable as cameras surrounded her from every angle. Real-time comments appeared across screens. Fashion victim. Bargain bin Barbie. Not belonging bingo. The live-stream viewer count ticked upward at an alarming rate. 10,000, 50, 0, 100, 0 people watching Elena's humiliation in real time. Victoria, sensing the viral potential of the moment, decided to escalate for maximum entertainment value. She proposed what she called a generous solution for the entertainment of her stream. "You can stay if you serve drinks to the real guests," Victoria announced, her voice honeyed with false generosity. "We're always short on staff." She held out a server's apron while her friends filmed, awaiting Elena's complete submission to the final degradation. "Or you could clean the bathrooms. We pay $200, 0 cents an hour, probably more than you make in a day," Victoria added, triggering laughter from the surrounding crowd. Phones recorded from every angle as hashtags began trending nationally. Yachtgate crasher, consequences, know your place. It was at this moment that Elena straightened her shoulders and replied simply, "I think there's been a misunderstanding about who I am." There was something in her tone, a quiet certainty, that momentarily gave Victoria pause, though she quickly masked it with another laugh. The yacht's crystal-clear chimes sounded through the sound system, signaling the official start of the evening's program. The master of ceremonies approached the central podium as spotlights activated around the main deck. "Ladies and gentlemen, please gather for the commencement of our program," he announced through the state-of-the-art sound system. Victoria reluctantly lowered her phone but continued streaming as guests migrated toward the stage, temporarily distracted from Elena's humiliation. To Victoria's visible confusion, Elena quietly moved toward the stage rather than taking the opportunity to escape the torment. "Distinguished guests," the MC began, "welcome to the annual Ocean Conservation Gala aboard the Azure Empress." His voice carried across the now attentive crowd. "Tonight, we're honored to have with us the founder of Mercer Maritime Group, owner of not just this $200 million cent vessel, but the largest private fleet of luxury superyachts in the world, valued at over $5 billion, $700 million, 0 cents. Victoria's champagne glass froze midway to her lips as the live stream continued to broadcast her increasingly horrified expression. Confused murmurs spread through the crowd as the MC gestured toward the very woman who had endured hours of mockery and derision. The spotlight swung across the crowd, finally landing on Elena, bathing her in brilliant white light that made her simple pearl earrings glow with an inner fire that outshined the diamonds in the room. "Please welcome our host, and the visionary behind Mercer Maritime Group, Ms. Elena Mercer," the MC announced. Gasps rippled through the crowd as Elena confidently walked to the stage, her bearing transformed from victim to commanding presence in an instant. Victoria's livestream, still broadcasting to hundreds of thousands, captured her own shocked expression as comments shifted dramatically. "Who is she though? Plot twist. Oh, no she didn't." Elena took the microphone with quiet authority, her demeanor projecting the natural confidence of someone who truly belonged. As she began to speak about ocean conservation efforts, her father, shipping magnate Robert Mercer, appeared at the back of the crowd, observing the scene with quiet intensity. "True luxury isn't what we wear or display," Elena said, her voice clear and strong. "It's the ability to protect what's precious." She never directly addressed the prior humiliation, maintaining perfect composure as she spoke passionately about marine protection initiatives. Victoria frantically attempted to end her livestream, but discovered with horror that it was being screen-recorded by thousands of viewers who refused to miss the dramatic reversal unfolding. Elena announced her company's $150 million 0 cents commitment to ocean conservation programs, drawing enthusiastic applause from the crowd, many of whom were carefully avoiding eye contact with Victoria. Comments continued to flood Victoria's still significant stream. "Power move. Riches in disguise, karma queen." As Elena concluded her opening remarks, Robert Mercer approached Victoria, flanked by his executive team. His tailored suit required no designer labels to communicate his position. "Miss Harrington Ross," he said quietly, his voice carrying the weight of immense power. "Your family currently leases 3 yachts from our fleet at $1,500,000, 0 cents per month each. As of this moment, those contracts are terminated. Victoria stammered apologies as her phone continued to broadcast her downfall to an ever-growing audience. "Our contracts contain a moral character clause," Robert continued, his tone matter-of-fact. "Your behavior this evening has triggered immediate termination." The air around Victoria grew frigid despite the warm Miami evening, as former friends created physical distance, her designer perfume now seeming cloying and excessive as the subtle scent of power shifted across the deck like an invisible tide. Victoria's phone rang, her father's name flashing on the screen, as Harrington Ross stock began to plummet in after-hours trading. Elena continued her planned speech while Victoria's social empire collapsed in real time. Margot, the event coordinator, frantically attempted to approach Robert with profuse apologies, but he simply raised a hand to silence her. "Your company's $5 million 0 cents annual contract with Mercer Maritime is terminated, effective immediately," he informed her, his voice devoid of emotion. "Professional integrity is non-negotiable in our business relationships." Head of security Dominic was quietly dismissed, escorted off the yacht by Robert's personal security team. The waitstaff who had mistreated Elena were discreetly handed transfer papers, reassignment to positions on Mercer's Arctic research vessels, effective immediately. Comments streamed across social media. "Dominoes down, Mercer justice, real boss move." Victoria's livestream captured her increasing isolation as the yacht's elite guests scrambled to distance themselves from her sudden and catastrophic downfall. The woman who had been the center of attention now stood alone at the railing, abandoned by her entourage as former friends clamored to introduce themselves to Elena. Victoria made a desperate attempt to approach Elena with apologies but was blocked by security, some of the same guards who had earlier threatened to remove Elena from the vessel. Her social media accounts flooded with negative comments from former friends who had witnessed her cruelty firsthand. Within minutes, notifications began appearing on her phone, fashion brands issuing statements terminating Victoria's $30 million 0 cents in endorsement deals. Elena graciously accepted congratulations for her conservation work, never once mentioning the earlier incident. Her dignity in victory proved as remarkable as her composure during humiliation. In the background, Victoria's phone continued to deliver devastating news. Her invitation to next week's Miami Grand Prix VIP suite had been publicly rescinded on social media, the first of many such exclusions to come. The deck's atmosphere had transformed completely, the air now electric with whispered conversations and sidelong glances. The setting sun cast long shadows across the polished surfaces as the clink of glasses became subdued and nervous rather than celebratory. News alerts began appearing on guests' phones. Billionaire heiress tests character of elite guests, most failed, and Undercover Boss Yacht Edition expose Miami's social elite. Business publications rushed to release profiles revealing Elena's personal net worth of $4,200 million 0 cents and her numerous maritime technology patents. Financial news tickers reported Harrington Ross Holdings stock had dropped 14% within an hour of the incident going viral, wiping $375 million 0 cents from their market value overnight. The same social media platforms that had broadcast Elena's humiliation now celebrated her understated approach to wealth. After her speech concluded, Elena noticed a young server watching her from the periphery. The young woman approached timidly, hands trembling slightly as she apologized for not intervening during the earlier spectacle. Rather than dismissing her, Elena asked about her background. Listening intently as the server explained she was working to pay for engineering school at MIT. Without fanfare or public announcement, Elena offered her a $250,000 0 cent scholarship through the Mercer Foundation and an internship in their marine engineering division. "I started my own career working on yachts," Elena explained quietly. "I believe in recognizing potential wherever it appears." The young woman's eyes filled with tears as Elena slipped her a business card with a personal phone number written on the back. Victoria witnessed this interaction from the periphery, her designer makeup streaked with tears as she realized the true nature of the woman she had so cruelly mocked. Robert Mercer nodded with approval, revealing this was how Elena evaluated all potential employees, by their character rather than their credentials. As the evening came to a close, Elena and her father boarded their private helicopter to depart the yacht. She paused before entering, casting one final glance at the vessel and its chastened guests. The helicopter blades whirred softly above, as the Atlantic Ocean stretched vast and timeless below them. the yacht's lights growing smaller as they ascended, a physical manifestation of rising above pettiness and materialism. Elena Mercer had climbed from deckhand to fleet owner, experiencing both worlds firsthand. She chose to judge people not by the price tags they flaunted, but by the humanity they displayed when they thought no one important was watching. Her quiet strength had revealed the shallow nature of those who believed wealth defined worth. If you discovered someone treating others poorly when they believed they held all the power, would you reveal your hand immediately, or would you patiently wait, like Elena, to see their true character fully exposed? Let us know in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this story of karma and quiet dignity, make sure to subscribe to our channel and hit that like button. We'd bring you these real hype lessons of power, character, and justice every week, because sometimes the most valuable things in life can't be measured in dollars and cents.